How you guys doing? What's going on? My name is Clement, and welcome to our 30-minute talk segment. Today we have Kris, the Blooming Ebony. Most of you have seen her roaming around somewhere on YouTube, and she's, I would say, probably one of the ladies of the Manosphere. Would you classify yourself as one of them?
No.
Ooh, you don't even want to be. You don't even want to be associated with that. Okay. But I'm gonna let Kris give her brief synopsis on who she is, and you guys get to know her a little bit. Go ahead.
Hey everyone, my name is Kris. I have a channel called The Blooming Ebony. My goal, I've been on my channel for a while, so I'm trying to kind of rebrand and really figure out what I want to do. But my goal is to help women learn how to find, I guess, where they belong, right? Redefine what femininity is in modern day, bring back homemaking, bring back wifely skills that the feminists kind of made to seem negative or beneath us. My goal is to bring a lot of that back and help women feel fulfilled in their lives and in their relationships. I also like psychology, so I tie a lot of that in as well. As I learn it, I like to share that information with you. So that's basically what I'm hoping to do in the future. And then when I'm not on my channel, I am on CKQ podcast every Tuesday.
I like the sound of that. That was good. Okay, Kris, we've had many different conversations throughout the show, behind the scenes, and everything like that. And one thing that you said to me, I mean, obviously, you're building your channel on femininity is amazing because I think that's missing a lot. But one thing that you said before that kind of struck out to me is you said something along the lines of women coming into men's space is what ruined like the whole men's growth. You want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, so there are multiple layers to that. So when I first entered into the Manosphere, or thought about entering into the Manosphere, I was hoping to talk to, okay, let me start over. So basically people like Kevin Samuels and Rollo Tomassi are basically talking about all the failures in the Black community and Black relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And to an extent, they were kind of talking about what worked, but I don't really think many people knew what that looked like or even knew where to start. So my goal was, if they're talking to the men and teaching the men that, these are things that you need to be doing, someone needs to be talking to the woman, and that kind of has to be separate. So like the talking points are almost the same, but it's kind of redirected to the women and what they need to do. But these conversations kind of have to be separate, right? If we're having a more traditional talk, we kind of have to keep it in a more traditional way, in a sense, where like the men are separate from the women. I don't know if you grew up in a household where like the women are in the kitchen and the men were, outside grilling. Like you keep those things separate. And I think these conversations that we're having now are supposed to be separate, but when we kind of mix them and we have all these mixed panels, you can't really target women or men without one side saying, well, women need to do this and men need to do this. And they're kind of using each other as like, as like proof. Yeah, so if they say something negative, if one woman goes on there and she's like, well, I did this with my husband, then the men have all this like evidence to not be productive, right? To not perform in relationships and vice versa. And so I just think that dynamic just kind of shifted things in the Manosphere.
But let me ask you this. Do you think that, is there any validity to men and women coming and talking together? Is there any kind of progress that can be made in that? Or do you think that the cons outweigh the pros?
I think there's some validity. I think now we're getting to a point where the cons outweigh the pros. And that's only because we don't know how to keep the two separate, right? Like people can't talk to men about who men are without women butting in. And that is getting kind of annoying, but I think there's validity in the sense that women are learning a lot about men and how men think for the first time in a very, very long time, right? Like there were generations that understood men and their relationships worked because the women knew men so well. But we kind of lost that. And so the Manosphere kind of helped to dig a lot of that back up. So I do think there's validity. I think there are lots of pros to it. I just think the more time goes on, we're starting to see a lot more cons.
Okay. You said before, and I've also heard you say this before, that are how's the best way to say it? That so that's not damaging or it sound too inflammatory. Oh, Daryl Long coming in the building. Shout out to you, Daryl. Appreciate you. You said, when men had a self-help section on YouTube. All right, you know what? Let me see if it was actually you that said men have a self-help section on YouTube. And when Black people came on with the whole Manosphere talk and the Manosphere talking points and everything like that, that kind of derailed the conversation. Was that with you?
That was with me. You're just throwing me under the bus. I'm gonna get canceled by the Manosphere.
Nah, if anything, my channel will get canceled, so don't worry, you're good.
Yeah, that was me. So basically what I was saying was a lot of red pill conversations started with Jordan Peterson, in my opinion. I think he really got the ball rolling, and he kind of became the most famous. And I think that red pill for a while encompassed more than just relationships. It was social issues, politics, human biology, human psychology, like very, very general. And then I do think that when the Black community kind of jumped onto the bus, it became very focused on relationships. And now the Manosphere, the Black Manosphere, is mainly on relationships, and it's not on really any other political issues. Like, even if you look at Candace Owens, like, we don't really have a Candace Owens, like a smaller one that's having panels, right? Like, no one's really having those like political conversations. Like, even she is a part of like the grand red pill group, right, which includes multiple different races and cultures. But I know it's in our little subgroup, it's
our little tiny sector of
really
YouTube.
Only about relationships.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, because I did feel that at some point, I know that's like taboo to say, I feel, but I did feel that at some point the conversation just became around focused around women and what women aren't doing right. And it almost just started, it was almost okay to take any kind of accountability off of men and just point the finger at women the whole time. And I think, women do have their issues, but me personally, I constantly blame men for that. I always blame men for that. You are the opposite, whereas you blame women for it. So, go ahead. It's like you're about to say something.
When it comes to relationships, I think women make the first. I think women control evolution, right? If a woman chooses not to sleep with a certain type of man, she can literally stop his DNA in the tracks. Like, if he can't reproduce, he dies. His DNA dies. And that's kind of the point of women is so weak DNA can't continue, right? Because then the species can't continue. And that's fully on women. Like, that's fully a woman's responsibility to decide who to sleep with and whose baby she's going to risk her life to carry, right? So for that reason, I think that a lot of these issues, if women would just kind of raise their requirements a bit, men will either have to decide, okay, I either want to live, right? I want my DNA to continue into the next generation, or I'm going to die off. So in order for me to continue, I kind of have to, meet her requirements. So I'm not going to, I want her, so I'm going to wait to have sex with her until we're married, right? Like, he's going to do these things because she's requiring it. And that's what you learn from femininity coaches. Like, have your boundaries, and if people don't meet your boundaries, they're fair boundaries. Because women now think that they have boundaries, but they're like, if you're not 6'4", don't talk to me. I'm not talking about those boundaries. I'm talking just simply like, you have a certain way of doing things because you can prove that in the past it's worked and it's led to more successful relationships. But yeah, if women kind of raise their requirements a little bit, men will either choose to do it or not do it, and then they risk not being able to have offspring with a woman that is highly desirable.
Okay, I definitely understand that, and I agree. I agree that the woman does need to set the standard. So then, what's going on now? Because women are still setting their standards, but the whole market, dating market, is kind of in a disarray. What do you think of that?
Well, women aren't setting the right standards. Like, I think you and I are both right, but I think we talk about this too. Like how you said, you blame men and I blame women. We would both get to the same solution if you told men, like, you suck in this area, and I told women they suck in this area. If they improve, they would get together and be great, right? Like, both are true at the same time. But in terms of women setting standards, they just don't set the right standards. They don't really know why they're setting standards. They have no foundation. Even Christians, I've noticed in this space, and it seems like every woman on the platforms are typically Christian. Like 3 out of 4 women are typically Christian, which is why I'm saying this. I hear this often when I hear a Christian woman saying that she's single because she can't find a man that makes more than her and she has expensive taste. It makes me cringe because I'm like, that is not at all what your purpose is as a wife.
That's far from a Christian woman.
That's far from a Christian. Like, that's, and so women, they have standards, but their standards are just not healthy. They're not fair. I don't think they're fair.
Okay. Well, that's true. That is because now a Christian woman and someone outside of the church, you can't really tell the difference because they both speak the same exact way.
Yeah, their standards are baseless. So because they don't understand why they want that thing, they're not consistent. So they don't apply that everywhere, right? Like, they want a potential husband to make $100,000, but not their sex partner. He can be a bum. Right, like they're not like their standards are so baseless and inconsistent, and that's leading to problems. So I think if they were truly, if you were truly a Christian, a lot of these problems would be alleviated because you would have something to rely on. And even if you're not a Christian, like I'm not a Christian, but when you're set in something, you apply it, right? When you truly understand why you're doing it. And I don't think they know what their purpose is.
I think it's also tough growing up in a generation like this where religion is so heavily frowned upon, especially something like Christianity. Andrew Tate is a guy that's pretty much taken over the internet right now, and he had an interview a long time ago where he said, he was a big atheist, I don't believe in God. God's not real. Blah blah blah. X Y Z. And recently he came out with another one. He was redacting that. And he was like, no, like I'm a big follower of Orthodox Christianity now. The reason is because everything that's going on in the West right now it's a degenerate society. Everything is going horribly wrong, and it's going that way because they removed religion, or they tried their hardest to remove religion from everything. Right? So the fact that when there was religion, or when there was the belief of God, things were good. But now that God's been taken or stripped out of everything, the religion has been stripped out of everything, things are going bad. That right there, that in itself is proof that God exists. Because a simple thought of God made people do things the right way. And I was like, oh, that's, what do you think?
That's interesting. I understand what he's saying there completely. That's really interesting. But yeah, that they did try to strip everything, all religion away. But I think it even goes deeper than that. They tried to strip away structure. Like, that's really what because a lot of these institutions, yeah, it was centered around either Jesus Christ or God or whatever higher power they believed in, but it was more so living your life based on this book of guidelines, right? And it made it very, there was less gray area, right? There is a right way and there's a wrong way. And sometimes there are small deviations, but you can't really go too far, right? And it was just much clearer. And I feel like now they're just stretching everything so far into just chaos. So whether or not, I think if you think there's a right answer and a wrong answer, and you think that things should have structure, children should have structure and all these little things, even you're going to go a lot further than where we are in the Western world. Like simply that mindset.
Yeah, the idea that structure is needed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone has a place.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say everyone has a place. Everything has a place.
Everything has has a specific order that it needs to move along in. Let's talk a little bit more on something that you've actually tried to live a lot of your life based around. Is the femininity courses. You're a femininity coach. I know I hear a lot of times you reference her, even when you're feeling at your highest and at your lowest. So you want to talk a little bit more on that?
Yeah. Should I start from the beginning or just have the courses and stuff?
Wherever you feel comfortable.
Okay. So.
Let's start with the schools. Like, what made you want to seek out a school?
Oh, okay. That was when I realized I couldn't progress anymore on my own. So I realized that I needed the school when I was on different panels in the Manosphere, and I wasn't connecting with other women. Like I just felt like I couldn't connect, and I don't really pick up on social cues very well, and I've been told that I lack empathy. I can be a little bit blunt, and I think the tone of my voice makes it seem like I'm kind of emotionless. So I've been working on that, but I was thinking to myself, like, I'm making my platform for women, right, and men, but my audience is 99% men, and a lot of women don't listen to me. And I started to realize that there were a lot of women that were kind of waiting for my downfall. Like when I would mess up, they would say little things like, I don't necessarily mess up, but like they would wait for times to kind of like try and kick me, to like knock me down. And I realized that I obviously wasn't on the right path, that was happening. So what I'm learning on my own and like just online femininity trainings and classes probably isn't enough. So I decided to go ahead and join a course. And I do think I'll be married soon. And so I also wanted to do it for that, to strengthen my relationship as well. But that's really what made me want to do the class, is when I realized like femininity, a lot of people I think that you have to completely isolate yourself from other women when you enter a relationship or as you kind of become a female adult. But really what's happening is you don't really let everyone have access to, things that you value, but you should still be able to connect with other women and interact with them and discuss your feelings and be able to be empathetic, and they should feel comfortable reaching out to you. You should still have that level of warmth with women that really only women fully understand, because they have it as well, right? Like you should always be able to connect with women because you're very similar in so many ways. And when I wasn't connecting with women, I decided to go ahead and reach out for help. So I was like, this isn't something I could do on my own. And so that's what made me want to officially do a 6-week course.
So for someone that is, for a woman out there that's interested in doing something like a femininity course, what would you recommend? Or obviously without, I guess, giving away too much of the information that you learn, because that's killing the course, what is something that you'd be learning in a femininity course?
Yeah, you learn a lot about your weaknesses, and either how to eliminate them or turn them into strengths through acknowledging them as vulnerabilities, right? And being able to share that with people effectively.
Could you give like an example of a weakness?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be you personally, or it could be you personally, whichever one.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I used to, so I studied like emotional, I think it's emotional intelligence. Like when I was able to clearly know what I was feeling. But in the course, I learned that I was dismissive in my communication style, where I would kind of shut down because I would think, oh, this isn't the right time to talk about this, or it's just going to make it worse. I just want this to blow over. I didn't realize that was a weakness. I thought that was one of my strengths, being able to be like, okay, this isn't that important to bring it up. But that's really not the best way to do it, because you're supposed to be able to share with your significant other what you're feeling, right? And it's totally okay. So there was in that course, I kind of learned other ways to communicate my emotions instead of keeping them inside. I learned how to be more vulnerable, which has in turn strengthened my relationship. If that makes sense. So little things like that you don't realize that you do, you kind of have to dig into it and work through it, kind of iron it out.
Becoming a little bit more vulnerable. Okay. Does everyone survive a process like that? Like, have you seen women going throughout the course and where they're just like, you know what, the Cardi B lifestyle just fit me much better. Like the city girl lifestyle fit me much better. What like, have you seen something like that through the course?
No, I haven't. The women seem pretty awesome. I don't meet all of them. Okay, this last one, I didn't meet all of them. I had a very small group, so she had multiple days that we would meet, and whatever day worked for you, that's the day you'd be there. So my classes were only with like, I think maybe 8 other women at the most.
Okay. Oh, so these are small groups.
Small groups, yeah.
Okay.
But I think they all did well, and some of them even, which I hope it's okay that I share. I feel like it's okay that I share this. Some of them were encouraged to do it by their husbands, right? Their husbands were like, "Oh, you should do this course, right? Maybe it'll help you work through some things, right?" Okay. And that's a great motivating factor, right? And you pay for it. It wasn't free. You paid for it, and so I couldn't imagine people would just drop off and waste their money. And the one that I did was very, very affordable. But they have femininity courses, 6-week courses that go upwards to $5,000.
Wow.
Yeah, depending on what you're looking for.
I guess it's investing in your own future, realistically. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
This is kind of your life that you want. Yeah, a lot of women that want a more high value luxury lifestyle, they'll typically pay for those ones. Like the Jet Set Babe, which is by Anna Bay. She's a YouTuber. She has a 6-week course. Hers is like, I think it's like $1,200 now.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so there's a few out there that they date. Like she's married to like a billionaire or a millionaire or something. So she's teaching women how to enter into high society. And then once you're in high society, you're going to be surrounded by, rich women and rich men. And then you're going to find your spouse, basically.
How to move around in these spaces.
How to move around those spaces, yeah.
Okay. So for anyone for a young girl out there that's new to this, but she's trying to be true to this, and she's, in the manosphere, looking around and just thinking like, wow, like I hear about femininity courses, blah, blah, blah. What should someone be looking to typically invest to, I guess, out of the gate to start themselves
on? $5 on a good journal and a pen.
$5 on a good journal and a pen.
Yeah, okay. That's all they need. $5 for the journal and the pen.
Okay.
That's it. And most of it's free. So if you're just getting started, unfortunately, you have to turn off some of the Manosphere content, right? You can't listen to the Lapeef networks and think that you're going to learn femininity through that. I think that's a mistake that a lot of women make. And no offense to Lapeef network, it's a great panel, but it's just not going to teach you femininity. I think a lot of people think that they're going to become more of a woman by watching it.
Okay.
But yeah, you just have to you have to write down what you want, what you're looking for, and then they have plenty of resources online. Just look up how to be more feminine, and you'll get a long list. And I'm planning for my blog that I'm setting up. I'm planning on putting in a study guide of different YouTubers, different videos that people can watch that helped me. But yeah, you just start with journaling entries. There are different like psychologists on YouTube that have like journaling exercises that people can do for free. You gotta figure out what's going on with yourself. And that's one of the biggest issues is women don't know who they are and what they want. And that's where they have to start. Because you don't want to put money into anything that you're not, that you don't know what you're buying.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Last thing I want to touch on, and I think this is a good topic. The girlfriend trap. It's something you speak on often. You don't like it, it's your arch nemesis. Talk about it.
Yeah, so the girlfriend trap. So the girlfriend trap, which I learned about it after I became a girlfriend, which I had learned about before.
Oh,
But
sorry to hear that. Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those things, but it's better to know than to not know. So basically, the girlfriend trap is it's being between a rock and a hard place. It confuses a woman into thinking that she's a wife when she's not. So it basically it kind of confuses her mind, right? So she's in a place where she's kind of sacrificing more of herself and not really getting what she wants in return. So I talk about the beginning of a relationship as a negotiation, very similar to negotiation. And basically, the two valuable things are being traded that you can only give to that person and they can only give to you is security, and that security typically lies in a marriage. That's like the highest level of security a man can offer. And the woman's offering sex. And the idea is like, he's the only person you're going to be doing this with is very valuable. You know, that's something that he wants, right? And he can only marry one person, which makes it very valuable. He can't offer this to multiple women at one time, right? And, you know, low supply, high demand, higher price, right? So these things are very, very valuable. And what happens in a girlfriend or cohabitation situation is the woman typically gives up sex or some form of intimacy, but the man doesn't give her that full security. And so she's basically playing wife, playing house with this person, knowing in the back of her mind that he can leave at any moment and she'll be with nothing, right? He owes her nothing.
But I don't think a lot of women typically know. But hold on, give me 1 second. Shout out to you, E Black. Welcome. We are going to be doing shows every night, but it's only going to be half-hour segments. So we're only going to be doing 30-minute segments. This is one with Kris-The Blooming Ebony, talking on, you know, the Manosphere, femininity, a little bit of the Lapeef network. So they might come after me. But, you know, speaking on a couple of different things. But shout out to you, man. Hit the like button. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I forgot where I left off. I think you were going to ask me something. It was about the girlfriend trap.
Yes. The girlfriend trap. So is it fair to say that because women are going into this thinking like, oh, okay, you know, this is the right thing to do. It's because women are very much group think, you know, whatever every other woman is doing or famous celebrities are doing, that's what they're going to be doing as well. You know, so real quick, wrap it up in a bow. Would it be fair to say that like it's only natural that women would want to fall into that role? Like they're presenting their wifely skills right there, right? By being in that position, right?
Yes, and that's typically why people do it, because they're told to test the water before they jump in, right? And you know, they hear online that a man has to see that you are a wife before he makes you your wife, which is true. But they don't talk about the other side of it, which is when you cohabitate in particular, it lowers your chances of actually marrying that person. And what ends up happening is she gets pregnant, they end up getting married, they end up getting divorced. The rates for divorce are much higher if you cohabitate with that person before. Like there are so many issues that arise in these types of relationships that women don't know about. And so yes, it makes sense to kind of learn about somebody before you marry them, but unfortunately, data shows that it doesn't work in the way that we hope that it will, or that women and men hope that it will. So on paper, it sounds really nice, and it sounds like you're playing it safe, but you're actually setting yourself up for a lot of failure. And the women in these relationships are oftentimes really, really depressed, very unhappy, and overwhelmed. So,
ladies and gentlemen,
yeah.
that was Kris, the Blooming Ebony. Give them a shout out. Let them know where they can find you, your socials, your plugs, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. That was such a quick show. That was a lot of fun. Thanks for so you can find me on Instagram. I'm a bit more active on there. There you can find me at TheBloomingEbony. And then I will have a blog coming out soon. I am currently working on that. And then also here on YouTube, I'm going to start vlogging my progress in learning about currently biblical homemaking and sharing that process with you. So yeah, on YouTube, The Blooming Ebony, on Instagram at The Blooming Ebony, and pretty soon TheBloomingEbony.com. But that website does not work yet; it's not live yet. But that will be my blog. So stay on the lookout for that. And also every Tuesday at the CKQ podcast here on YouTube.
There you have it, people. You'll find her socials or any kind of her social media will be in the description. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy the show. Hit the like button, hit the damn like button, people. And that's it. We're going to call it a night. So thank you again for watching, and leave a comment on what you think.